You would never guess I worked in television. You never get those intros right at all. It's the post-match reaction to Liverpool, Southampton 3-1 Liverpool. From American Scouser TV. It's me, Maka. I'm here with Trevor today. Trevor, what did you think of the game?
I quite enjoyed it. A little bit nervy early, but then kind of went the way that a lot of us thought it was going to.
It was definitely a game of two halves, though, wasn't it? We clearly took our foot off the ball or took foot off the pedal. I mean, a little bit in the second half, maybe a pre-planned thing for the players that were going to the World Cup, not overexert them. But apart from the goal we conceded pretty much soon after scoring our first one, we did really just control the game from start to finish, didn't we?
Yeah, and there was times where it kind of got a little bland, and there was no real endeavor to the way they were playing. But that's, like you said, there's a lot of I think player maintenance going on in that second half, trying not to get any of those last second injuries for especially these guys that are heading over to Qatar. And I think, if there was ever a game that you would be okay with that kind of just lack of ambition and just lack of punch in a second half, this would probably be one of them.
If I remember correctly, I sometimes skip news and miss it, but Firmino's not going to the World Cup, correct?
He is not. No,
he's not. So it was a surprise that he came off and not Salah, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think more than anything they wanted to get Bobby a standing O for that first part, and I understand it. It's something where kind of want him to feel loved when his nation did not do so, and I think he played well enough to deserve that going off that way, because just at that point there was no real anything more than just getting these guys off healthy.
By standing, obviously you mean a standing ovation, not a standing orgasm, right?
No. Well, there could have been
that could have happened
as well. In the bathroom.
He did play quite well and score a goal, so you never know. Saying that about, as I said, about maybe taking Salah off for Firmino, it seems to me in this game, Salah was very muted at best and ineffective at worst. What did you see of his performance?
Yeah, it's usually happened in games like this where it's kind of lesser opposition. It was the same as the Bournemouth game where they were just trying to get him a goal, and they just kept trying to feed him today for pockets of the game where they're just like, all right, Mo, we'll do everything we can to get you in a good position to score. I think the closest one came when it went off with the guy Leonco's ass, and it went out for a corner. That was probably the closest he came in the second half. The header maybe that Thiago got in his way. I don't know how to fix the Mo problem, if you want to call it a problem, but it's one of those things where it's better that it happens in games that we just are able to control everything, and he's able to show up in the bigger games and kind of impose his will. You'd like it just a little bit more in some of these lesser games every once in a while, though.
In terms of the performance, we said, I think, the last post-match that I was on, certainly, that Núñez is almost increasingly becoming our most important player. And it seemed that way again today. But he also seems to be making a fabulous connection with Harvey Elliott, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was going to say Harvey was one of the guys today that I felt played incredibly well. Núñez getting 2 goals is awesome for both him and for us as a club, because it's one of those things that if you're going to make all these seismic shifts to your philosophy and your system to kind of work this guy in, it's got to be worth it. And now he's starting to kind of find his form, both his head and his feet, running at people, getting in the box. He's got a lot going for him going into the World Cup, and I hope he comes back with 4 or 5 goals under his belt there and can just keep it up in the second half.
I mean, we did concede yet again an early first half goal. We can't. It was a set piece, so we can't really point at a specific player that wasn't doing their job. Maybe you could say Van Dijk lost his man, but it's very hard when you do a zonal defense on a free kick to pick up a man that easily. But it almost seems like there's some measure of a lack of concentration sometimes with us in the first half, isn't it?
Yeah, and set pieces are always tough, especially kind of like that type of one. It was almost like a reverse of the one that we scored on. And Ward Prowse is a guy that's just so good at putting the ball into a group of people. Usually never hits the first man in defense. So it's one of those things that it's just, he got in there. Somebody took their eye off Adams, who's pretty much their only legitimate goal threat in that type of situation, which, something that probably needs to be addressed. But in the end, kind of that resilience to kind of shake that off and not let it lead to another one when they had that opportunity a couple minutes later, and not just kind of fall apart on that front, I think was promising.
To kind of switch back a line yet again, in terms of the chances Southampton had, it was almost like a vintage Alisson Becker performance. He pulled off that amazing save in the second half, I think it was, from the header down to the ground. But it's almost like a reverse Samson for him, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like he shaved the beard and suddenly his powers came back.
Yeah, and when I saw the first pictures of him clean shaven, I just go, oh God, I don't like it. It just looks weird. It looks like a kid that just got sent into the military and he had to like shave for the first time in his life, and it just looked off. But hey, yeah, if that's if we need to send razors to him to get saves like that on a regular basis, then I'm all for it.
We saw in the formation, I picked up at least that Trent was back to doing that thing from the start of the season where he was tucking into the midfield rather than going wide, which he had been doing for a couple of weeks. Where we talked about how we seemed to be going back to basics. Do you think that it was maybe habit, or was it a case of they've worked on it in training and now they know a little bit more about how they want to operate that role for him?
Maybe it was something because they're just, even though they kind of played with a front two with Mo and Nunez, they kind of just giving him more room to operate over there. Maybe I don't know, because Trent did not kind of bomb up and down the lines as often you'd expect, especially against a Southampton team that was going to give you that opportunity. Maybe it was just muscle memory and they just did it to do it. I don't know if that was like a misdirective on the game of telephone with Klopp up in the stands. It gets sent down, and by the time the message gets to Trent, it's been muddled a bit.
On that note as well, you never kind of know. The reality of soccer is that really the coach's influence stops when the whistle starts. Everything that a manager or coach has done really should be done on the training ground. And except for alterations to tactics during the game, all the shouting and screaming is largely unheard, especially in a stadium with 60,000 people. So you kind of hope that there's like internal leadership when your manager gets sent to the stands. But it was really impressive that we stuck to a plan, and we didn't I don't want to say we didn't need Klopp, because we do, but the deputies had a good handle on things while he was banished to the stands. It was a good thing to say that we do have those leadership structures in place, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always a good sign when things aren't at their optimal levels and nothing significantly crumbles. That's it's one of those things where, and you've seen certain teams like Spurs when like Conte got sent off, and other teams have had that in the past where you don't see that calm on the sidelines. They're just always really tense, and they're just going like, oh, is this going to be blamed on me if he's not here, and then things go bad? And it's just business as usual more than anything for us today.
We're going to be joined by Alex here. Alex, how are you?
Pretty good.
What did you think of the game?
I thought it was good. I mean, we had some moments of madness, like in that 50-minute mark to was it like the 55th or 58th, when they had a few chances. But overall, I thought it was a good game. Nunez, I mean, what a player, Nunez, and Robbo just had an amazing game as well. So I thought I liked the game. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it, but I thought it was a lot of fun to watch today.
Not as fun to watch apparently as the Spurs Leeds game, but that's outside of our remit. But what did you think of the performance? We just talked a little bit earlier that there seems to be a bond happening between Elliott and Nunez in the same way that we had, maybe Firmino and Salah a few years ago, or Coutinho and Suarez way back, 8 years ago during that season. It's good to see that both Harvey Elliott and Darwin Nunez are kind of developing into the team, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I think it was I think there is a partnership there. Nunez, like I say in chat all the time, he's just a chance creator. He just is. He's going to miss a lot of goals, but he's going to score a lot of goals. And I think there's going to be more to come. And his partnership, I think, also with Robbo, him and Robbo are definitely on the same wavelength there too. So I think there's more to come from it. So let's see how it goes. That's a good way to go into the World Cup break. They'll win 3-1 at Anfield, getting close to that top 6. I think I saw before we left, we were 6, so it's looking better.
Trevor, Alex is right that Nunez and Robertson seem to be, despite the language barrier between Nunez and everybody, and to be fair, Robertson and anybody who speaks English. But how difficult does that make it for Luis Diaz to break back into the team when he comes back from injury?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how both him and Jota are integrated into the system, whether they are just, I don't know, turned into super subs for their initial return, and then kind of try to just cobble together a system that works for everybody. I don't think it's something where Diaz should just be like losing his job because they kind of work so well together on that side. But it's going to be interesting to see how both those guys are integrated to Diaz more than anything, just because he was so dynamic before he got hurt.
Alex, we talked last, I think, that in the Leeds post-match about Thiago not always being great when the other team takes the initiative, but a team against Southampton where they're going to give him space, he almost looked back to his best today, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that too. He looked really good today, and I thought Fabinho had a decent game today, and I think he's starting to get his confidence back as well. I think the midfield in general played pretty well today, which was good to see. And they should play like that against a bottom team side. Let's be honest, with Southampton, and they took it by the scruff of the neck today, and they you could tell that their experience paid off more than their youth paid off on their side. So it was good to see. I know they all played very well, and I don't know about you guys. I don't even know who would really be the weak link. Maybe Salah, with maybe because he just didn't have a lot to do in the game today. I don't know.
It seems that at least the first half was almost like a send-off for the fans before the break. It was an intense game, intense pressing, the counter-attack that we've been famous for years. And then, as we said, second half we took our foot off the pedal. Do you think that was a planned thing, or maybe something in the players' heads that, you know, they were conscious of not getting injured before they departed for the World Cup? Trevor?
Yeah, I think that plays in, and you know, that injury to Madison just is a reminder for all the players of how close the World Cup is, and you know, only just one game can totally ruin your dream of playing for your country in a World Cup. So I think that has a lot to, you know, play in the players' minds when they played today. So, but I didn't think anybody, I don't know, maybe it's just my opinion, I don't think anybody really held back, especially the guys that were going to the World Cup. Maybe they were a little bit more excited, but I think I think they were I think they played excellent today. I didn't think they held back at all. So
Trevor, what do you think?
Yeah, in the same vein, I really I didn't see any kind of trying to just like not go into tackles or anything, or kind of turn it into like a friendly or anything of that sort. But there was definitely times where you saw that there was just kind of like trying to slow things down, lots of just holding the ball and not trying to just turn everything into a break really quickly. And that's understandable also, just having a lot of games in a given week. And now you can kind of go into the break, you know, you got certain people going to the tournament. It's just almost a guarantee this year that somebody's going to come back less than 100%. But you're also getting some of those guys that we talked about before back afterwards. So there's going to be that balance. I really just I enjoyed today's game, and it was a proper send off to the World Cup.
Now, in terms of our league position and the way the league is going in general, Arsenal are obviously sort of the surprise package for leading the league. But City lost today to Brentford, so it almost seems like the league is a little bit more open at this part of the campaign. But maybe it might tighten up in the second half of the campaign. How important? It's always important, but how much more important was it to get the win today, Alex, to keep in touch with that top 6, top 4 bracket before the break?
I think it was pretty. I thought it was pretty critical that we needed that win. You know, it gets the fans on board. It gets Anfield buzzing. It gets the players confident again. I think that meant I think that meant a lot to them, especially the World Cup players that are going in. Maybe some of them weren't confident, like Fabinho, and then he played a game today and he realizes he still has it. So, I mean, a lot of stuff can happen in this month. I've said it in the Discord chat. I still think this is going to be a weird year for the Premier League. I think it's just going to be a bizarre season. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns, whether it's City, Liverpool, any of them. It's going to be weird this season. So I'm sure the second half, there's a lot more in store for it.
Trevor, in terms of the campaign, we've talked before about, you know, maybe we focus a little bit more on the Champions League and just do what we can in the league. But we've got Real Madrid in the next round. Let's say, worst case scenario, they beat us over the 2 legs. Do you think there's a possibility? Do we have it in us to claw back all of those points and then maybe put ourselves into a title challenge if City and Arsenal keep dropping points?
Yeah, and I don't want to be a defeatist, but yes, Real Madrid was in my mind, the worst case scenario of that draw. And it stinks that you kind of have to like think about that now as a thing that you don't have. I don't want to say guarantee, but it was one of those things where you could look at the Champions League and go, okay, that's our path to success this year, because the league is just, we started off so badly, and it itself is a crapshoot where, okay, yes, those teams may drop points, but Newcastle could go win 6 in a row. They have that capability. And there's something where there's just never that real stable path through the league, and having the Champions League taken off the table. And then you just start looking at the cups and be like, okay, is this what we're gonna do. We're gonna like hope for a Europa League spot through the cups. I don't know. I'd rather they're kind of just, and of course that's wishful thinking. I'd rather it just be something where you could go look at the league and go, all right, we've made up that type of gap before. There's teams that have come back, not always completed the task, but there's been times where gaps of this size without any games in hand have been put away. I don't have the highest hopes of that, but we'll see.
Alex, it seems that this season of all the seasons, nobody's going to run away with it. It's usually Liverpool, City leading the pack, and then a bit of a gap, and then the competitors for top four. But with a strong top 5 or 6 now, with Newcastle putting in performances, it seems like those teams are going to take points off each other all the time. If you're a rabid optimist, like we sometimes are, there is a chance, really, isn't there, if we can keep everybody fit?
Yeah, I think there's still a chance. I think there's still a chance with the Real Madrid tie. I mean, I know we're looking on based on the form of the season, but I think, they're the other teams like Real Madrid, they might not have a good series against us. And in the second half, we might have an amazing end to the season and other teams drop off. So you just never know. I mean, for somebody like Newcastle, I think it's critical that they have Bruno Guimaraes. Hope like nothing happens to him in the World Cup, and a couple other players for Newcastle. But I saw something strange too. I maybe I saw it wrong, but I saw Newcastle was the favorites today by the bookies. Was I right? Am I right on that?
They played Chelsea, is it?
Yeah. I think
I put them favourites against Chelsea because the thing we've talked about with Potter before is his teams don't score an awful lot of goals. They're very good defensively, but they don't score an awful goals. So you kind of have to see where the threat against Newcastle would be. So it wouldn't surprise me if they are the favourites today.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
But
confirmed.
in terms of our campaign, there wasn't really anybody who, I mean, even you couldn't even point at a mistake Gomez made today. I mean, he had a solid game, nothing spectacular. But who was the standout performer for you, Trevor?
It's easy to say Nunez because of the goals, but I was really impressed by what Harvey did today. It wasn't always effective, but he was always running back. He was able to help out Trent more than anybody would reasonably believe he could. And I think he had some great passes, put in a lot of effort, was a great shift for the youngin.
Alex, what about you? Who do you think was the standout?
I think it was probably Robbo. I mean, he had the two fantastic assists to Nunez, and yeah, I think he is up there. But yeah, I would also agree with agree with Trevor, but yeah, Harvey put in a good shift today too.
I want to go to Robin now because it was very noticeable. He was almost back to 100% his old self, playing the way he used to play. Is it a possibility that some of the underperformance we've seen from Trent Alexander-Arnold was maybe because he doesn't have as much competition on that side, whereas Tsimikas came in and did a really good job, and so kind of put a bit of pressure on Robertson on that side, which prompted Robertson to up his game a little bit. What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, rising tide lifts all ships. I think, yeah, Tsimikas able to kind of hold down the fort as well as he did while Andy was injured is huge for him. And now that he's coming back, knowing that not necessarily if there's a dip in form, he's going to be replaced, but know that there's that option there and never to kind of like take his spot for granted. Whereas Trent doesn't his unless where Ramsey will play in the league at some point and you're like, okay, that we'll never see him outside of the cups. That's fine, but yeah, Milner is not the same kick up the backside that Costas is.
Alex, we're going to bring Timuchin in here. So one last thing from you. Who deserves... Oh, no, I was going to say who deserves the vacation the most, but my question to you is, should we keep Klopp in the stands?
I was honestly thinking, I forgot to bring it up in chat, but I was wondering if Klopp in the stands actually took a pressure off some of the players. Because I think that probably had a lot to do with it too. Klopp maybe taking a break, not yelling at everybody from the sideline. I think they were more relaxed. I don't know what you guys thought of it, but it seemed like them not getting yelled at so much for like making a mistake by Klopp. Them getting yelled at by Klopp did a lot of wonders for him. So I don't know what you guys think. That's my opinion, but I liked his little radio that he had, and then at one point, I don't know if you guys saw, he had his phone out and he was like talking to somebody on the phone. So I thought it was pretty comical to see that from the stands. So.
What I was going to say, Alex, thank you for joining us. We're going to bring Timuchin in now. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the World Cup. And I think we talk to you in the morning coffees next week. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Have a good one, big man. We will talk to you soon.
Yep. You too. Bye.
Okay. We're going to bring in the big man, Timuchin, who's probably incredibly happy that Ox got more than 2 minutes today.
Yes, honestly, he got that tackle. I thought he was injured again. And I'm like, oh shit, here he goes again. But no, good win to get it going, right?
It was a good performance. We said in the first half, and maybe took her foot off the gas intentionally in the second half. But at least for the first half, we really put in a vintage performance, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, that was like more, chasing in packs and closing down, winning the ball back and stuff like that. But yeah, I was afraid in the second half a little bit. It kind of like got into a lull and I didn't know which way it was going to be. But I mean, I'll tell you this, though. I mean, it's good to get the win, kind of like, crawl over the line to the World Cup over here. But I mean, you look at that second half, anybody else in goal, this is going to be a bad result at the end of the day. So I know I'm Mr. Negative when it comes to these things, but I just felt like, Ali pretty much saved the game today. I don't know which direction that game goes if it becomes 3-2, but you got to be really happy with the first half. And maybe you're like, hey, if we have rested legs throughout, we can pull something. And especially if you have like Diaz on left, I mean, it's great to see what Nunez can do. So a lot of positives to take into the World Cup.
Trevor, in terms of, we joked there about Klopp not being in the stands, but I think Alex made a good point. Is sometimes you just need not just a different voice, but maybe a break from the coaching style of the main coach. Do you think it's possible that Alex was right and that the players are just a little bit more relaxed, knowing that every mistake wasn't going to be picked up on?
I think it'd just be natural for that. It's just human nature when you're not getting shouted at constantly. You're going to relax a little bit. And even if there's guys that kind of react to that favorably and need that kind of kick in the shitter to really just make sure they're razor sharp with what they do, that's always going to be something where you have that little bit of peace and quiet.
Dimitri, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if that makes such an impact, to be honest with you. I mean, I know, like, these guys know, right? Heck, man, I mean, having played it for so long, don't you feel like after a while, you can really tune out the sideline if you want? You can tune out the fans if you want. I mean, if you're like in the youth levels, you can tune off the freaking parents if you want. It's almost like it's like living next to, train tracks. First night you're up. Second night, you kind of wake up, don't know what even happened. It was probably train. After a while, you're just fucking sleeping through it. So I think players can shut that out, and they already know what they did wrong. I don't think that makes an impact at all. Let's face it, if he was going to get a ban, and I think we talked about this in the Discord channel, what I mean, no better game than probably this, because if you look at the fixture, I mean, Southampton does look hapless. I mean, the first half, I know, like we just talked about how we played well, but man, their defending is like, yikes.
And to be fair, though, we did say about those games against Forest and against Leeds. So
yeah, right.
sometimes you have to be careful what we wish for. But it was a good solid outro for the. It's almost like South America, doesn't it? With the aperture and the clausura after the World Cup, like we're gonna have two different championships. Arsenal have won this side of it, and then we'll see who wins the second one. But the break is much welcomed for us, Trevor, isn't it? We really need that 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is, to just get back to the training ground and actually work on the things that we need to work on.
Yeah, it's a very welcome reset button in the middle of the season, where if in normal circumstances it would be the total opposite, where the fixtures would just pile up on top of each other to a point where I don't even think you'd be able to properly recover with the amount of injuries that we have. It would just, I think, just compound upon itself. And as much as the World Cup as a whole is a bit of a mess, it's a welcome mess for us, at least.
Tamuchin, what are you expecting us to come back like when the whole break is over, and making an allowance for the players that are going to be recovering after the World Cup? But as Trevor said, we might have Matip fully fit, we might have Jota back, we might have Diaz back. We have options when we come back. But what would your expectations be? A quicker start than we've had in this part of the season, or more the same?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, man. You would hope that it's almost like a beginning of a new season, and we kind of begin it how we expected to start this one, right? I mean, definitely. I mean, you look at the standings right now for a brutal season that we've had so far. It's not too shabby. Just because we won some games that, based on our form, you would think we wouldn't. And we've lost some games that you would think we would get something out of. It's hard to tell. I mean, the fear is still the midfield, regardless of, the names you counted, none of them are a midfield. And I feel like, if we do not add somebody to that midfield, and if we're just like, oh, hopefully Arthur will be back or something like that in January, like in December, I just feel like it's going to be same old after a while. This midfield, I thought Elliott did extremely well today, but this midfield needs more fresh legs to be able to play, because I don't think, the hunting impacts I was talking about earlier, this midfield cannot handle that every single game, especially when we're playing 3 times a week. It's a ridiculously congested fixture rest of the way. You'd have to have quality depth, not just freaking depth, not just trotting out Curtis Jones out there, but you have to have quality depth who can do what you want to do every single game, so you can hunt in packs. Even in this game, you could kind of see that it wore off after the 50th, 60th minute. It was not there anymore. To be able to do it 90 minutes, I mean, obviously you're not going to go full speed press 90 minutes, but to be able to play how we want to play throughout the games in this fixture, you have to get more options to midfield, and I think that's the biggest thing.
I'm pretty sure, though, Tamuchin, nobody has ever said, I can't wait for Arthur to come back. In the history of that poor guy's career, I don't think anybody's ever actually said that. So good on you for having confidence in him. Trevor, quick one, finally. What are your expectations when we come back from the break?
I can't wait for Arthur to come back.
Yes, double it up, baby.
Yeah. There's going to be new faces. Start off with not necessarily a cupcake, but not coming back to a harsh game in Aston Villa. Yeah, you got City in the Gummy Bear Cup, but that's its own different deal. It's just going to be interesting to see what this team actually looks like after the World Cup in terms of just health and structure and guys that are going to be targeted to come into the side from the transfer window.
I think one last thought from both of you. Should we bash Brendan today because he's done fairly well?
we should bash Fat Frank today. I'm actually.
Oh yeah, we should bash Fat.
I'm nonstop refreshing to see if the sacking comes up. But,
that would be a nice Christmas present for Everton at least.
Probably for Everton as well. That's not the only sad thing. That's what has me torn. But it's good to come across. By the way, did I call this exact scoreline even in terms of how Southampton scored, Trevor, or is it just me?
No, you hit it. You stole Sparky's score, but you hit it.
Hey man, there's no dibs in scores, right?
And I think
it's good to come across the line with a win, and then let's just get some rest. Let's see what we make of the World Cup as we watch it and stuff like that, as we cover it, and then hopefully start the second part of the season how we expect it to.
I think I was going to say on that note, we should all ask Timuchin privately what he thinks the lotto numbers are going to be for the next Powerball before
I'll put it in the private message. Yeah, I don't want anybody winning.
Okay, everybody, that's it for the post-match reaction. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you watch the Morning Coffee every morning next week. It's a good wake-up call. And then we'll have our Monday podcast as usual, our EPL fantasy football if you haven't had a disastrous weekend. Or if you have had a disastrous weekend like I probably have. And then also listen to us on Spotify, or we'll come to your house and eat all your food. At least I will, because that's what I do. Trevor, thank you very much. Timuchin, thank you very much. We'll see everybody soon. Take care.